Tuesday. We're so glad you're able to join us from wherever you may be. If you're in the Asante region, thank you for choosing Love FM. If you're in the Central region, you made the right choice with ATL FM. Keep listening to the Super Morning Show right here on Joy. Now, we promised you, after we had the conversation yesterday and we were admonished by the national organizer of the NPP that the vote buying problem requires a national conversation. So we're having that national conversation today, right here on the Super Morning Show. We brought together the voices that can lend the most important edge to this conversation, so we can actually figure out a way of stopping this horrible trend from destroying our democracy. So in our conversation today, you'll be hearing from Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante. He, of course, is with CDD, an organization that has been monitoring, these practices for a long time. They have lots of figures to help us understand the size of the problem. He joins us. Also, Professor Baffour Agyemang is a former senior UN advisor on governance. He's the CEO of the John Kufuor Foundation, and he certainly has a thought or two on this issue. You will be hearing from the Honourable Member of Parliament for Agyemang North constituency, Asante Agyemang North constituency, Andy Apia Kubi. It is his voice, of course, which has become, if you like, synonymous with this conversation about vote buying and its effects. So you'll be hearing from him as well. But here in the studio, we have Mr. Suleman Sanid. He's a member of Parliament for Ahafo Ano North. But he made a deliberate decision not to run for office again this time around. And the reason he cites for that is the over-monetization of the process. We'll be learning more from his experiences as well. He's here with us in the studio. Mr. Sanid, what a pleasure. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Kojo. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time. And thanks to all our guests. Good morning to you all. Now, if it's okay, we'll start with you, Dr. Pumpuni Asante. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Doc, please help us understand the size of the problem. First of all, how much does it even cost for one to run for parliamentary office?
Well, thank you, and good morning to your listeners. I thought you would ask Honorable Sanid that question first.
Oh, he will certainly share his experiences.
Maybe he will have the most recent figures.
We will ask him to share his experiences, but we know you did some work.
But you know, our studies that we did in 2021, 2022 now, some of the average was about 4 million Ghana cedis. I think at that time, in dollar terms, that was about $675,000. To contest for an MP. And then, of course, the presidential elections are ridiculous. But I mean, if you're looking at that kind of figure, you're asking yourself, where does anybody who's aspiring to contest for MP, where do they?
What, do we still have Dr. Asante? Hello, Doc. Can you hear us?
Going up since we started looking at this problem in 2018, when it was about $300,000, and I mean now it's doubled. So every election, it's almost doubling, and it's getting to really ridiculous levels. The impunity which is also attached to it is worrying, because it looks like people now openly demand and expect to be paid certain amounts of money before they will support the candidate. And then once that is happening, there's no way that anybody that gets into government would be there to do anything like solving the problems that the people want to be solved. So this is what we are dealing with. I think Honorable Sanid is one person who, for consistently over the years, has been raising these concerns privately and publicly, to some of us. So I'm glad that today he's in your studio.
Yeah. So, did your study uncover anything about the sources of this money? Where do these politicians find these amounts of money to come and run for office?
Well, from both legal and illegal sources, if I have to put it that way. Because one of the things that we are also finding is that there's a lot of money from galamsey and other kinds of illicit activities also going into elections. Illegal fishing, illegal timber, which are all going into elections, and that is even the scarier problem, because it will mean that at some point, these monies just circulate. They go around. They keep these illegal activities also alive, because they go back to election to politics for protection, and then we never get to solve it because there are just too many people that benefit from the whole activity.
Okay, we'll come back to you.
But to say most people are getting it from friends and family, from financiers. Now you have people who also think it's better to finance a candidate than go and put the money in any investment.
Yeah, we'll come back to you when we want to talk solutions as well. But the Honourable Member of Parliament for Ahafo Ano North is here. We also have on the phone the Honourable Member of Parliament for Asante Agyemang North. So, Mr. Sanid, help us get the reality of this situation. How much did it cost you in 2020 to become a Member of Parliament?
2020, for the primaries, fortunately for me, I went unopposed. So I didn't have to contend with any issues. But even unopposed, you still have to thank the delegates. That is how we put it. You still have to thank them. You can't just say you've gone unopposed, so therefore you have nothing doing with them. You still have to see them and thank them.
So you thank them to the tune of how much?
Without putting figures, but at that time, if you look at it, it's something in the region of 250,000 kind of money that you have to give to them.
Ghana cedis.
Yeah. And that is even on the day of the conference. But if you want to look at the problem itself, it actually starts from the campaign stage, where you have to visit the delegates, have an engagement with them. And in fact, anytime you are meeting them, you can't just go to them and leave. You need to drop something. And dropping of something depends on the area and depends on the region. Some of the regions are, especially if you have a neighboring constituency where there's a resourceful person contesting, and the person begins to raise the bar in terms of how much the person is giving per sitting, then if you are close by and you are doing something less, it puts you in a very dangerous situation. And therefore, to stay competitive, you may have to revise your nose and then up your whatever you are giving to them. So so if you meet them 2-3 times, then it means every time that you meet them, something must happen.
Wow.
And depending on those who are in the contest, if you have people coming in with a lot of money, then it means that you have to also look for money to stay active. Else you'll just fizzle out in no time. So by the time you get to the D-Day, you wouldn't be a strong force. So, and then on the D-Day itself, that is where the main action is. That is where you need to do something to keep them with you. So it's a very big problem. It's not a joke. And beyond it, it's not just getting the contest over and then you are done with it. Even how to maintain the delegates, how to keep them with you. So for 4 years, you are required to take care of them and you have all the examples that I know you've heard of the examples. People going to marry, they come to you. Virtually everything. So you need to take care of them because it's almost like your hands in their mouth. And you know they determine your fate come 4 years' time. So you try as much as possible to keep them to yourself. Along the line, some will be getting out of your hand because other aspirants will be finding ways of taking them away. But if you want to keep them, then means you need funds to sustain the delegates. And then beyond it, then the larger constituency, attending funerals, making sure that you are politically relevant. Else, they will see you as an MP who is not active.
What do you mean by politically relevant?
Politically relevant because if you are not supporting the constituency in terms of people, funerals, they invite you for funeral, you don't appear. They invite you for harvest, you don't appear. Islamic functions, you don't appear.
But what have funerals and harvests got to do with politics?
I'll give you a typical. If you look at my constituency, for instance, within Tepa Township alone, we have over 100 churches. And some of the big churches have their branches in other communities. So if you take something like a Catholic church, they have branches in about 5 or 6 communities. So if you have harvest for even the 100 churches alone, and you are to even attend their harvest and give even 1,000, do the calculation. Then those branches within the communities, they'll also be throwing invitations at you. So how do you do this? And when I talk about being relevant politically, the moment you begin to shy away from these responsibilities, then you are endangering yourself. So whatever you do in parliament is your back case. That's the sad aspect of what we are doing. You see fantastic MPs, people ignore their contribution to the House, what they do to parliament, on national discourse, whatever. They don't even look at that. They look at how many projects are you bringing to the constituency? How many projects have you been able to lobby to bring to the constituency? But these are, to me, these are peripheral, matters of the MP. The MP's job is to actually contribute to lawmaking. And we need to do research. We need to read around so that whatever comes to the House, you can meaningfully contribute and then participate. But unfortunately, we've highlighted the project side in terms of development. The MP is doing this, the MP is doing this. There they highlight it. The MP is able to pay people school fees. He's paying. So the source of it, nobody even cares. So I think we need to really, really open up, especially those of us in the arena, open up and then talk about it and find solutions. So if I hear anybody saying that the political parties cannot do it, they can do something. There's something that they can do. Just like Andy Akobe was saying, the parties must sit down. They must look at the delegate system that we've been running for years. In fact, we've run this system since 1992. We've expanded it. NDC attempted expanding it, hoping that it would reduce it. It didn't change. It's only the amount of money that you have to give, you dissipate it among the numbers. But end of the day, it's the same thing. So if you expand it and say that even every a card-bearing member of the party should even participate, it's still the same issue. Either some groups will decide to put themselves together as the power blocks and come to you and tell you, we have these numbers. If you give us this, we'll give this number to you. So we'll not be making any headway, but we need to really, really look at the delegate system that we've been running. Right. We've done it for several years, so we need to interrogate it. We need to review how it's up us.
We'll talk about alternatives to that, but first I want to bring in Professor Baffour Agyemang. Prof, good morning to you. Thank you for making the time.
Good morning.
So I guess really we should try and identify the source of this problem. Who is really to blame here? Is it the greed of delegates? Is it the MPs who have led delegates to believe that they are in a position to provide this kind of money? Or is it the political parties for failing to regulate the process?
All the above that you have mentioned, Kojo. All the above. It's important for us to recognize that this conversation we are having is not based on hearsay or rumor. Full admission, corruption in our process has been made by politicians, including our good friends who are in the studio with you. They're all confirming that has been going on throughout this public, and it gets worse. As studies by DDD narrated by our good Dr. also indicate. So this is a real issue. Look, even the sort of funding Kojo created, there's a trend that we need to capture in this situation. A trend for appointees, young, new appointees to certain state institutions who once appointed their determination and parliamentarian, and therefore exploit their position to amass wealth to go in and defeat incumbents. It's a trend that happened for some time. Both political parties are guilty of that. If you look at those, those who won in the primary, you look at his own primary, when they were, you realize a significant number of individuals were able to capture power, so to speak, in this contest by simply utilizing from the state that way their cost of. So that's an point that we need. Secondly, what this may control is that people we are talking about are rational beings. Look, those who go into parliament, they are even me, highly educated, most of them, if not all. So they make rational decisions to enter the way, knowing too well that their accumulated income for the 4-year period that they will be in parliament will be less than the investment that they have to make in order to. So what is the rationale for people to get into this kind of contest? And that, for me, is one of the origins of corruption in our system. Most of them get corrupt. And as I listened to my good friend with video, he was narrating mostly corrupt practice. People, you have to meet their demand. Talking about being invited to harvest 100 checks. And if you give 1,000, 8,000 cities, that's 100,000 cities. And they know too well how much they make money. So if you ask me, who are the causes? That's why I said all the above. Citizens, politicians, and the system they create, we have created ourselves. That is why I think people like Mr. Apia Kubie that are asking for reviewing the system, the delicate system that enables politicians to capture them, that also empowers the delegates to make demands on our politicians. So we cut on all sides. So, Kojo, this is a major, and frankly, if we as a people do not find a way to stop this, the trajectory of our democracy in this country, the prognosis is dire, dangerous.
Yeah, and that's the next thing that I'll come to you on. You know, what will happen if nothing changes? Let me bring in the Member of Parliament for Asante Agyemang North, Mr. Andy Apia Kubi. Thank you so much for your time with us. Good morning. Oh, right. It looks like we've lost Mr. Apia Kubi, but we will reconnect with him. Here in the studio, of course, we have Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante and Mr. Suleman Sanid. So you talked about, Mr. Sanid, you talked about how even when you ran unopposed in 2020, it still cost you money. Is that why you decided not to go in 2024? Is it because you were not going to be unopposed and so it would end up costing you more?
Kojo, the reality is that after entering Parliament and then going through the motions for the 8 years, along the line, I somehow, for some reason, I was having issues. Virtually every turn I have issues. Because some of the things that are thrown at me, were not reasonable to me as far as I'm concerned. And I thought that, look, staying in there and pushing these things means that I'm really also contributing to whatever we are constructing for ourselves. So I thought it like, look, where I've gotten to, let me cut it here, and then find ways of supporting some reforms, so that those who will be coming after us will be actually going to Parliament to perform their legislative roles very, very well, but not to have these side issues taking the attention and all that. Look, Kojo, the reality in Parliament is that we are there are volumes of material that we are supposed to read, understand, and then talk to them. But unfortunately, we are not able to focus on these things. We are not able to sit in our offices and digest these things. We sit in there, and you look at the volume of demands that are coming on you, and you can't sit. When I entered Parliament, a senior member advised me, and initially I thought he was joking. He just said, "Hey, you want to sit here and be speaking English? Okay, you will see what will happen to you in your primaries. You sit here and speak English. You think it's English that will sustain you here." And it later on I realized that yes, it's actually the case. Because just like I said, what you do in Parliament, if you go out there, nobody cares about it. Because the parties do not have any mechanism for assessing the performance of MPs. We don't have any mechanism. The closest that we came to was this Dauro 10. Is it Dauro? There was this Odikro. Yeah. That was the closest that we came. It was only based on just attendance. Yeah. How can attendance be a good measure when it comes to performance? So I thought that yes, the parties must put in place a mechanism for assessing MPs' contribution in the House. When it comes to debate, when it comes to bills, when we are doing the consideration stage or the bills, MPs' contribution. When it comes to committees, what is their role in the committees? Are they really attending committee meetings and contributing? Are they visiting their constituencies? Are they visiting communities? Are they engaging their people, the stakeholders? How are they managing them? These are areas, metrics that we can use. And if the parties decide that, look, this MP per our mechanism has done so well, this is the threshold, he's passed this threshold, he's a first termer, he has a lot to offer. Such an MP, you don't have to open that MP to any contest. So once you decide at that level, you can decide that, look, at a certain level, we can have a close, restricted mechanism or delegates. It can be the party executives at the national and regional level to evaluate the person and say that, look, this person it's okay, let's push the person again. Second term, you can open up. But somebody comes to Parliament only 2 years, and then there's a contest on the person. How do you expect the person to reorganize himself after going through a very difficult general elections and then go into another contest within 2 years? So I looked at all these issues and I said, look, I think I can't carry the burden because I'm tired.
Right. Because
I was even virtually losing my family. I mean, you lose a lot because you have to go to the constituency constantly every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, especially when there's somebody at your backyard. Just plundering and just marauding and just clearing the place. You can't sit in Accra. So every weekend you have to go. My brothers in the north is even worse. Some of them, it takes them like, before they get to the north, 3,000, 4,000 on fuel alone. It's gone. So how do they sustain this? So I think that the issue has to do with the construction, the political system that we constructed for ourselves. We need to really, really look at it. Right. Change it quickly. Else, just like Andy Appiah could be said, now when we step back, those of us with second term, we're about 4 or 5 of us, we decided not to go again. Myself, Carlos Ahinkra, Dr. Baffour for Krum, and then Francisca Otem-Mensah. Francisca is a fairly young lady, full of potentials, but she decided not to go again. Now what I'm seeing is that from what is coming out of this primaries that we had, we are going to have a situation where we'll be having 2-term, 3-term MPs. Because people are going to exercise this self-control and self-restraint and say, look, I've been in parliament 2 times, 3 times. I'm okay. Let me move out. Because what is coming at us, or what is being exposed now, is a situation that is very scary.
Right.
I can tell it's very, very scary.
I think we've reconnected with Professor Baffour now. I think we have a much better line. Prof, thanks for your patience. You were saying, talking about the role that the political party has to play in solving this problem.
Yes. In fact, what the latest panel said is right on. He used the faction that it's also we need to form the electoral process. And incidentally, any side can be the leadership, those who are in power. So the challenge is whether those who inherit in this country are committed to reforming the
Prof, it seems the problem persists. It seems that we still have the poor signal. I don't know if it's possible to reposition yourself, and then we'll try.
Let me move and see.
Yeah.
Is it helpful?
It sounds a bit better. Let's see. Let's hope it's
okay.
a bit better. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that it's important for our political leadership, those who inherit leadership of the country, to be committed to reconstruct the political system. I think this is embedded in the general call for reviewing the Constitution. The Constitution is central in reforming the political system. So that's important. The second point I'll make here, Kojo, is what appears to be the Ghanaian inability to enforce laws, rules, and regulations. We have laws regulating almost all aspects of lives, including corruption. We ask us, how do we enforce these laws? It seems like when it comes to punishing somebody for wrongdoing, we get it. And that's not at all. All right? And the third, I'm just making this brief point. The third point I want to raise is very important. Changing the mindset. And here we talk about the role of education. You see, education, good as it is worthless without values. That is, without values, education simply produces clever devils. Because those who are running, who get into politics, are educated, in fact, highly educated. And at times we wonder what their education has done for them, only because, especially in our case, we are educating people to take responsibility of our well-being without the needed value system. Talk about ethics. We don't have that. We simply produce people who come out very clever. And yet, these clever people are those who are damaging the country through corruption and other ethics. So for me, changing the mindset requires a radical take-up in the education that we give to our young people. And those of us who are already educated, we need to find a way to re-educate ourselves so that we can have a new mindset towards making our country the best that to have. So these are the points I will make before I go.
Yeah, we really appreciate your time with us, and those are some very important points, necessary for our pursuit of a solution. Professor Baffour Agyemang, former senior UN advisor on governance and CEO of the John Kufuor Foundation. We thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Well, back to the studio where, of course, Dr. Asante and Mr. Sanid are still with us. Now, Doc, I want us to stick with this theme of the role of the political parties. It seems to me that there are two ways in which the parties contribute to this problem. The first is that they create a certain environment in which delegates feel that they are entitled to this, these monies being shared. we heard a clip of some delegates talking about how, they heard this one was sharing money and their name was not included. They are expecting these processes to be part of the election of their representatives. They are expecting it. And the party kind of reinforces that expectation. Listen to the Asante regional chairman of the NPP explaining why delegates are being given monies up to the tune of 5 to 10,000 Ghana cedis per head.
My brother, you as a journalist, we have to be a reality. Once I'm going, you look for lorry first. Is it not normal in Ghana? Or you won't look for lorry fare, then you say it. So once I'm going, I'll go free.
I want to look for lorry fare from you.
Yes, then I will do that and give everybody a lorry.
That's the regional chairman of the party. So really, are we surprised that the delegates won't even vote until they are bribed?
Well, I think it's I mean, first of all, you have to understand that we are talking about political competition. So it's like a market. If this person believes that, and even from the candidates themselves, if they believe that somebody is giving 5,000 to delegates, then they have to try to do something, because if they don't, then they are definitely likely to lose. And there's almost an expectation. It's a legitimate expectation that's been created, that is met after every delegate conference and so on and so forth. So we got it to a point where the last time they did this, that somebody else feel like, okay, I need to up my game in order to get an advantage, because money seems to be a key driver. There are other factors, of course. People also share money and they lose. But I think even some of the studies we did in 2018, that money is always an important factor. That, yes, a first-timer who has money has still a better chance than a second-timer, as a person who's going for the second term who has less money, right? So all those things begin to kind of reinforce a certain culture, political culture, that creates an expectation among the delegates. Now, I've always faulted leaders. Leaders are supposed to lead. If something is bad, and you know that it is not helping the organization, it's creating more problems for the organization, you shouldn't justify it and encourage it. And it looks like constantly you hear political leaders say, it's but people have to eat, and people have to do this, and they've worked for the party for all this, and this is their payment. This is what is happening in the parties. Currently, because of the monetization, even managers of the parties have no control over the party. People, it's basically those who are funding political parties that dominate decision making in the party. So there's always a lot of acrimony and conflict in the party. The party, people are in the party, they believe that they don't have a real say. They can't really contribute because they don't have money. Once you create a party like that, at the end, the phenomenon that we are seeing all across Africa of choiceless democracies, that's what you get. We go to select a candidate. Everybody knows that this person is already been determined. So the whole exercise is just a procession. Once you create those kinds of vehicles, that party that produces a government is going to be a very weak government. Because it's always going to have challenges and conflicts and doesn't have legitimacy. And that is the debilitating effect of monetization. It starts with the parties, then it eats into our democracy. So all kinds of adventurers then start coming in because they see it as an easy way to access power. So we really need to put a break on it. Now, the parties have a responsibility, but I don't think this is a question for just parties. My sense is that once it's a competition, the standards for selecting a candidate should be the same across. That is the only way you kind of encourage people to comply with the law. If MPP sets its own processes, NDC sets its own processes, we are not going to go anywhere. In other places, it's standard. You can only use a campaign, with this amount of money. You can only do this amount, this and that. It makes it easier for anybody that is competing to have a certain confidence that, well, if that other person does it, they would have breached the law, and the penalties that apply would apply to him. But if I know that, if the other person cheats,
are you suggesting a cap to on how much you can spend?
Oh yeah, I mean in terms of first of all, you have to standardize the political processes for electing candidates. It cannot be just across the parties. It has to be by legislation. Yeah. You see, we have to understand that what the parties are doing, they are governments in waiting. So if the processes are corrupted, they are going to corrupt our government system. It is, if we don't solve that, there's no way we can solve corruption. The motivation for coming into government and recouping will be there. Yeah. And if it's pervasive, then you're going to have a hard time, because it's the same political leaders that you're expecting to enforce the law. So you create a standard system where everybody knows that, okay, we are not doing a delegate system. It's an open system for everybody to vote for whatever it is. Whatever we decide, it has to be the same. Now, once you have done that, then it's really expenditure and revenue. Right? Who is funding who? What are their sources of income? The disclosures that has to come with the monies that go into party financing has to be very clear. Everybody has to disclose, because if you don't, then you cannot solve the problem of monetization, because somebody will go and find more money than the other person. So we have to know. Then you have to put expenditure cap.
Yeah, but Doc, talking about disclosures, we know political parties must submit their accounts to the Electoral Commission.
The parties.
Yes, the parties, they don't.
But the candidates
yes,
don't have.
I'm making a point. So the fear, even the political parties, they don't.
Yes.
How much more individual candidates disclosing? Political parties that are supposed to submit accounts are not doing that.
But we have to. I mean, we are talking about where this our democratic experiment is going, and where it's going, we don't, because we are talking about the complaints we have with Parliament. As Honorable is saying, nobody is going to Parliament and sitting there to do any work, because somebody is going to come and ask you that they are getting married, and that you have to pay for it.
So Doc,
you see, so the point is that if we do not, we have to make. We are talking about reforms.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. That it's not about just the parties and what they want. If it's left to them, they will do whatever it is that they think is comfortable. Yeah. But it's not enough for what they want. It's what benefits we are going to get as citizens,
right,
who have put this political system in place.
So I guess the question is, how do we enforce a cap? If that's the way, how do you enforce it?
Yes. So for the last about 2 years, we put together a stakeholder group that has been developing a roadmap around this. And we have to be practical, Winston. So if you take something like funeral donations, right? We know that part of our culture, this is a very, very important feature of, our acknowledgement and respect of our communities and so on. You are not going to scrap it, but you are going to make that the most any candidate or politician can contribute to a funeral is this amount. Right? That is the most you can. So if it's 100 cedis, somebody decides that they go and give 30. Somebody decides what. But the most you can go and donate is whatever. So that nobody is stopping you from as MPs, they will say, oh, somebody's part, whatever, you have to go and pay your respects. You have to go and do something. It's part of our culture. People take it very seriously.
So what is to stop a candidate from giving 1,000 cities just so that they are more popular than their opponents?
Yes, and this is so in the US, and I was part of a committee that visited the Federal Commission on Elections, which oversees campaign financing. And they said, we can't catch everybody. We don't know all of the stuff that's happening all across the US. But when we get one person, the whole world has to know that this offense that you have committed, it is a very serious one, right? And make that person an example.
Like John Edwards?
Yeah. You see, because if we are all following the rules, because I say it's political competition, the advantage you get is if you cheat, right? So he that is competing with the other person is the policeman of the other person. If it's found out that you gave more than the 100 and it's 150, the penalties should be there. You are either booted out of the process. You can't stand.
But Doc, can I come in? You see, the challenge, even if you put a cap, and then you have a situation where somebody has just about, say, on funeral donation, and this person has just about 10 funerals within a month, and somebody has over 100.
Yeah.
How do you? It's the same issue that we are confronted with, the money.
No, but you see, but the point is that you would have gone, because now the rate is 500.
Yes.
You would have done 500 times 100.
Yes.
All right. If you begin to put the cap on and create a stand, because it's the ordinary people you are also trying to shape their mentality as to why a public officer should not be putting that kind of money, donating that kind of money, because where do you get that money from? Yeah. So it has to be something that's reasonable, that everybody can say, but the cap, there are so many ways, like adverts, like billboards. When we are doing elections, do people have to have all those billboards? I mean, to what effect do you get, in terms of putting all those billboards?
Look, let me even come in to support what you... If you take something like internal contest, I've constantly spoke against that. That internal contest, you don't need billboard, you don't need posters, you don't need T-shirts. Within your own party, if people don't know you and you want to use billboards to advertise yourself. So the parties, I'm surprised that the parties have not been able to have a regulation on these things and say that when it comes to internal contest, no billboard, no T-shirt, no posters. Even if you want to do posters, you can do just some of the same dimension and find a simple place, say the party office, and paste those posters, just 2 or 3 there.
Mr. Before we wrap up, this is the last thing because I'm told our time is up. Mr. Sanid, you are not running for office again, so we are hoping you can tell us a secret. Please tell us, what exactly is it that you get from being in Parliament that makes it worth it for people to spend so much? I ask you, even though you were unopposed, you still had to pay 200 and something, which is more than I don't know. I mean, how many?
And actually, the money you pay when you're a sitting MP is even more.
Right. So I mean, you had to pay all that money, which, I mean, if calculating your salary, that's almost a year's salary. What is it? What do you get from being in Parliament that makes it worth it for people to invest so much money?
You see, in terms of satisfaction, there are people who, in fact, I'll keep on saying that when it comes to financial, benefits, what normally happens is that our foreign trips, those give you some monies come in, some allowances come in, and then you put them together, and that is what actually sustains us. But you see, because of the constant, demand from from the constituents in general, you tend to dissipate these things. So in fact, within 2 years, 3 years, you realize that you don't have anything. So if you are not somebody who has business and to rely on your business. In fact, I'll give you an example. There was this gentleman with us. He came and he has a family business. And he was using the family business, proceeds from the family business to take care of his constituents. When he wanted to go second term, his family said, no, we won't allow you to go again. Because you've not brought in anything. You keep on taking from the family coffers and giving it out. He had a hard time convincing his family that at least I wanted to do 2 terms. Allow me to do 2 terms. Even though he ran at a loss, he was making losses. Yeah. If you were to put it in business terms. Yeah. But eventually, they allowed him to do only 1 term. So he's also hesitating with us. So you see.
After 1 term?
No, he did 2 terms. Oh, okay. Because we did 2 terms. So what I'm saying is that all of us, if we went in, our satisfaction, at least I've been able to serve my people for 2 terms. My name goes into the annals when it comes to politics in Ahafo Ano constituency. And I've been able to also do certain things that I wanted to do. Getting water to virtually every community and all that. So that is the satisfaction.
Is it worth it? Is it worth the money you've spent?
In fact, it's worth it. It's worth it. And if you give me the chance, I'll do it again. But I wouldn't go more than 2 terms. I wouldn't go more than 2 terms. And you see, when Doc was giving the solutions, I think there's an area that we have to also be looking at. We need to have national MPs, like they have in Rwanda. Rwanda MPs are not assigned to any constituency. So you can't walk to any MP and say, I'm your constituent and therefore take care of me.
Then where's the representation?
Yes, so we have to go proportional representation. They are the political scientists. They can look at it. Because I think if we do not, we will only just be shifting the responsibility. We'll only solve the delegate system.
Right.
But the constituents will still be hitting at the MPs. And it's the same demands.
Right.
The same demands.
On that radical suggestion, I want to say a big thank you to our guests, Mr. Suleman Sanid, who, of course, has represented the good people of Ahafo Ano North for 2 terms in Parliament of Ghana, and Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, who, of course, has been part of the team at CDD that has been observing how these elections are being monetized. We thank you both for your time, and to all others who have contributed.